Today does not feel like a main character energy day. I'm just being honest because I don't even know why. I'm just tired. I don't know what to do next. I mean, I have options. I'm safe. I'm fine. This isn't a pity thing. I promise I don't need to be rescued. You know, my family is close and they're here. I thought I'd know more. But I turned 34.
The house is sold. My home is not my home anymore. We've also reached our final settlement agreement for the divorce. All in one day. This is the part in the book where the main character finally sees those circles closing, closing the loops. But in all the books I've read, usually these moments are joyful. I don't feel any of that.
Welcome back, family. The woman you just watched filed for divorce the very next morning after discovering that her husband had allegedly cheated on her. Not a week later, not after months of consideration, and not after a lengthy legal process. The very next morning. At the time, she described her decision as main character energy, believing she was taking control of her life and stepping into a brighter future. Fast forward to today, and the picture looks very different. She is now 34 years old, living with her parents, recording late-night video diaries, and trying to make sense of the choices that brought her here. In one of those videos, she sat alone and asked herself a difficult question. Was the problem her circumstances, or was the problem her? After some reflection, she seemed to arrive at an answer she wasn't expecting. But before we get there, let's go back to the beginning.
So I'm getting a divorce. I have tried to change so many things about my life. Golly, it's been I'm scared a little bit. I'm scared a lot of it. Main character energy. Oof. Today marks 48 days since I found out, and 47 days since divorce was decided. I'm doing okay. 6 weeks ago, I couldn't see any light ahead of me. Time has gone by, and there's been like little pricks of light up ahead, like if you had aluminum foil and then you took toothpicks. Little tiny pricks of light coming through. Not enough to see what is on the other side, but enough to let you know that it's light over there. Even on the worst days, I've gone to bed knowing that I am closer to that light. I'm gonna look back on this and say I did not freeze. I moved forward. I am capable. I can do this. Main character energy.
According to her own timeline, 48 days had passed since she discovered the alleged betrayal, and 47 days had passed since the divorce decision was made. That means only one day separated those two events. In other words, she moved from discovery to filing almost immediately. No long period of reflection, no attempt to slow down and evaluate every option. What makes this even more interesting is how she described the future she believed was waiting for her after the divorce. Most people talk about a fresh start, a new chapter, or a brighter tomorrow. She compared her future to a piece of aluminum foil with tiny holes poked through it by toothpicks. Think about that for a moment. This is someone who creates content and communicates for a living. Yet the most hopeful image she could come up with for her life after marriage was damaged kitchen foil. The thinnest material in the drawer, pierced by the smallest object in the drawer. Just enough light coming through to know there's something beyond it, but not enough to clearly see where you're going. Somehow, she looked at that image and convinced herself that it was worth walking away from everything she already had.
And that a no-fault divorce does not mean that no fault was incurred. Oftentimes, women who've been abused or cheated on will go the no-fault route because they either don't have the financial ability due to financial abuse to go the full court route. It's a courtesy a lot of times if kids are involved because the no-fault divorce is a lot easier to process, especially if it's the father of your children. It's true that women do initiate more divorces, but why? Why? Why do you think that is? Could it possibly be because they got into a relationship with someone who didn't uphold their end of the bargain? Who wasn't a good partner? I'm not saying that every no-fault divorce is that scenario, and I'm not saying there aren't women out there who fall out of love and decide that divorce is the best option, but props to them, honestly, because you know the amount of men who decide that they've fallen out of love and just forget to tell their partner they don't get divorced, they just cheat.
What's especially noteworthy is that she shared this metaphor while defending herself against criticism surrounding the breakup. Her argument focused on the idea that people can emotionally disconnect from relationships long before anyone else realizes it. But in trying to explain her position, she may have unintentionally revealed something much bigger. The explanation she offered sounded remarkably similar to the very criticism being directed at her. Sometimes, the more people try to justify a decision, the more they end up exposing the reasoning behind it. The defense she presented ended up raising even more questions about the choices that led to the end of the marriage.
The house is sold. My home is not my home anymore. We've also reached our final settlement agreement for the divorce. All in one day. This is the part in the book where the main character finally sees those circles closing, closing the loops. But in all the books I've read, usually these moments are joyful. I don't feel any of that. 6 months ago today, I had no idea my world was about to change. I wish I could say that all okay now. All I can do is hope that another 6 months feels good. And I'll be able to look back and know that the last 6 months were really hard, but were really necessary. And that I did the right thing. I did all the right things. And I hope it will be worth it. And I will look back and be like, damn, that was a main character right then. You just didn't feel like it. Main character energy.
As time went on, she described the divorce settlement as though it were the final chapter of a powerful story. She talked about circles closing and major turning points, framing the moment as something significant and transformative. Yet almost immediately afterward, she admitted that she didn't feel the emotions she expected to feel. She acknowledged that moments like these are usually supposed to bring relief, excitement, or even joy, but she felt none of it. That contradiction sits at the center of the entire story. The papers were signed, the marriage was over, and the house was gone. Looking directly into the camera, she stated that she had done all the right things. Then, only moments later, she followed that statement with 2 words, I hope. Those words matter because confidence and uncertainty are not the same thing. One suggests certainty in a decision, while the other reveals lingering doubt. The distance between those 2 statements says far more than she may have intended.
Does not feel like a main character energy day. I'm just being honest because I don't even know why. I'm just tired. I don't know what to do next. I mean, I have options. I'm safe. I'm fine. This isn't a pity thing. I promise I don't need to be rescued. you know, my family is close and they're here. I thought I'd know more as I turned 34.
Another thing that stands out is how every stage of this journey was documented. The announcement, the explanations, the defenses, the settlement, and the emotional aftermath were all recorded and shared online. Every major moment became part of a public narrative. Yet on the other side of this story is a man who chose a completely different approach. Her former husband isn't posting emotional video diaries. He isn't uploading lengthy explanations or asking strangers for validation. He isn't sitting in front of a camera late at night questioning whether the problem was him. He simply stepped out of the frame and continued living his life. When you compare endless public documentation with complete silence, the contrast becomes impossible to ignore. Sometimes what isn't being said tells a bigger story than everything that is.
I'm lonely. Okay, just like a video diary style, whatever, journal. I tried hard today to make everything perfect so that it's not me. It's not that in the show. I'm just lonely. I'm just lonely and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to make it better. I don't know how to help. Maybe I'm just being really selfish. I don't even know what the point of this video is, except that sometimes it feels hard to tell what my emotions are, like what is real, what's not. For me, like I just have a hard time in the good moments. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I was just crazy. Whatever.
Perhaps the most revealing moment came when she admitted, "Maybe I'm just being really selfish." Nobody forced her to say those words. Nobody put them in her mouth. She offered that thought on her own. And that is where the real discussion begins. People will continue debating whether her husband's alleged actions justified everything that happened afterward. Some will say they did, while others will disagree. But regardless of where people stand on that issue, the larger question remains the same. Does the reason ultimately change the result? The uncertainty is still there. The doubt is still there. The late-night reflections are still there. The aluminum foil metaphor is still there. At 34 years old, she is still searching for clarity that she thought would arrive after the divorce. The day she filed, she called it main character energy. Later, she used the same phrase while documenting the struggles that followed. Then she made one final promise to herself, that someday she would look back on this chapter and see it as a defining moment in her life. Maybe she will, and maybe she won't. Only time can answer that question. But this story does leave us with an important lesson. There is a difference between narrating your life and actually living it. She had the camera, the audience, and the words. What she didn't find was the ending she expected. Instead, she found herself staring through that same piece of foil, still searching for clarity on the other side. Meanwhile, somewhere beyond all of this is a man who never felt the need to explain himself to the internet. No speeches, no emotional monologues, and no public diary entries. Just a life moving forward. And from all appearances, he's doing just fine. Stay sharp,